What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Redalescu with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. I'm super excited. We have a very cool guest with us today. As you can see, she's very stylish with those fabulous glasses. She is an entrepreneur, an executive coach, and a published author. Please welcome Sophie Chiche to the show. Sophie, thank you for being here today. I'm super excited for this conversation.
Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward all week to this conversation. You sound completely up my alley.
All right. Yeah, I feel the energy. The energy is good. So you're actually originally from France, and you're joining us from Arizona today. And you've done a lot of incredible things in your business life. Can you tell the audience a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I was born in France, always somewhat jokingly by accident. It was always like, I want to be in America, the West Side Story moment. And so I moved as fast as I could. I found a job. I didn't speak English well enough to move. And so I started taking jobs in France that were like guides for Americans to go into Normandy, wherever they may have lost their family, in the war, stuff like that. So I could meet people.
Yeah.
And then one morning, it was one of those, I was dating the wrong guy and I hated where I lived and the job was boring. And I was like, now there's a window.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. So I moved, and then I'm an entrepreneur by, I don't know, DNA, by breed would be one way to describe it. And so I've always followed what felt true to me. And when I saw something was missing, I found a way to invent something, you know. So I'm definitely of that DNA of wanting to be my own boss and wanting to do things that move me. I can't stay in something that doesn't interest me for very long. And so doing my own thing always was the secret to that.
I can relate. And I think that takes a special kind of person to want to, and to take on that, to being an entrepreneur, because it's not easy. It's actually, you take a lot of risks and you work harder than you would if you had a 9-to-5 or anything like that.
True. But to me, I would be miserable doing these other things. So I guess it's some people are like, oh, I'm afraid of doing this, but I'm like, well, what are you doing now? Is this satisfying? And if it's not, I think it's a better move than to try something else, than to stay stuck in something that I now know I don't like. The chance being that maybe I will like the next thing. So I've always taken these leaps.
Well, I mean, if you speak about leaps, you were a street clown in the streets of Paris. What was that? I have to bring that up because that's just awesome. I have never had someone on that put that in their bio. That's really cool.
Yeah, because I feel like we all I don't, but a lot of people try to and label free. That was so excited for me to talk to you, because that was that. I didn't want to be the one thing, and so I did do things that in some resume would be a little bit awkward, but in mine was, being a clown was a very powerful experience for me. It allowed me to discover, it was probably one of the first gate into who am I and what scares me, and when I'm scared, how do I push through, which, became very helpful when I ran a company or teams or did all the stuff I did later on. I would always have this reference point of finding this clown in me. I don't know if you know anything about clowns, but the work is to find your darker, quirkier weirdo in there, which we all have.
Yeah.
I just think our culture has made us cover it up, but I'm definitely weirdo, and I want to claim the right to continue to be, and not, be boxed into, she's an executive coach, she's probably very serious. I'm not. I am for when it calls for serious, but I'm also completely not when it calls for not.
Yeah.
So
I would think that would be, so for me, if I was to do that, I would take me out of my comfort zone and force me to tap into those natural resources that we have inside to face some of those fears. So I love it. I think it sets you up for success. Speaking of that, you've actually founded several companies. So you're currently the CEO of becurrent. It's a unique method that helps people not just become more productive, but productive with purpose. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I discovered the methodology. I created the methodology as I was running companies and teams and doing all these projects. And it's not easy to do. It's easy to drop balls. It's easy to injure relationships because you don't have a system. If I say to you, I'm going to do this as soon as I can, maybe for me it means, a week and a half, when maybe for you it means 2 hours,
right.
And so we run into not keeping commitments when really I don't feel like I committed to you. So not having proper rules with one another as we communicate on teams, especially teams that are high performant, and there they are really taking big risks, and they don't have a system often. And I mean, I've been in meetings where literally I'll ask, like, so what is your production process?
Yeah.
Like, how do we go from to And then
Yeah.
I watch people, look really puzzled, like it
Yeah.
happens, but we're not sure how. And so it came about from a company that I was running at the time that had 350 employees, and that's harder than, you and yourself. And so,
Very much so.
yeah, I mean, some of it was difficult. And it's also no longer being an entrepreneur, frankly. I mean, running a company with so many people, it's like it's no longer you and your little crew and we're doing something that's going to change the world. It's a big company where conversations are about insurances and blah, all day long. So in that, I decided to create a system that would make at least what could be easier. So not all of it, because some of it is still juggling with fire, but which for a clown is not that scary, by the way. But
I like that.
Exactly. But so I started discovering what makes. I'm a very, very commonsensical person, like very practical.
Yeah.
But I'm also very poetic, and I'm very, my head is in the clouds, but my feet are really grounded.
Yeah.
At the same time.
It's a good combination, though, because a lot of people, common sense is not common.
I'm actually very blessed. Like I run into a lot of people, their feet are grounded, very grounded, and they cannot for the life of them, budge from whatever the train track is. And I also meet people that don't even know where the train tracks are. And they're like, a million ideas a minute. And that's not very productive either. And so somehow to find this methodology is super sexy for people that are very creative because it's structured enough that they can actually get the stuff done, but it's not so structured that they like, they feel like someone's strangling them, when they come in the morning. So it's a methodology that incorporates creativity and structure in a really beautiful way.
I love that. And I think it's a good thing to teach people because as you said, they can be one way or the other way. It's hard to find someone that has the combination. And I think to get that balance is really just kind of living life well. You know what I mean?
Well, when you have an idea, especially, I mean, it is one of my missions in life. If we were to take the conversation to like a higher purpose a little bit, I find it beautiful that people that have good ideas that could actually change the world sometimes, but they're not that organized. And so it doesn't get to the world. It stays in their, I don't know, bedside table or something. And so I'm very committed to like helping people that are super creative, not only deliver what interests them, but also not burn out. Because that's the other, downside of people that are very creative and have lots of, wanting to do lots of things is they do it, but it's at the price often of their health, sometimes their relationships, like they come home and, they don't recognize their kids or they forgot that they have kids, God forbid.
Oh my goodness.
And so there's really this sense of, people have a lot of beliefs that either you have a fulfilling career or, a family life, but you can't seem to, a lot of people believe they can't seem to, do both because they're busy and so much going on. And then they come home and they can't turn off the brain, the machine, and so they're with their kids and their phone trying to like, oh, do like one more thing for a client or whatever. And the kid is like, 15 years old and like, who are you? A little bit.
Right. And that's not a good way to be because, I think people need to learn how to shift gears, like almost compartmentalize certain areas of your life where it's okay to be, very type A and successful and driven. But when it comes to like your family, your relationships, your loved ones, you have to shift gears and put them somewhere special and invest in those relationships. Because at the end of the day, that's really what matters, Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Both matters. Like I want to have a thriving career too. I don't want to have to give up one for the other. But if I walk out of my office or my desk now at home or whatever people are doing, I want to be able to trust that when I come back tomorrow morning, it's going to tell me what I'm doing. I don't need to remember. I don't need to hold it. I think using our brain as a memory holder, as a shelf, for our thoughts is the least interesting way to use our brain. And people use it as such for, most of their lives. And so to be able to like, okay, I'm done for today and really be done for today. And then be able to turn around and go, build a castle, with your baby or your little one somewhere and not think about what's going on at the office. Because when you come back tomorrow morning, it will be relaxed and it will be in order. You know, a lot of people don't have that. And so they get back to the office and it's like, you know, like fire hydrant and
Yeah.
emails and all this stuff, you know, that they have to handle. And they think that's the only way it can be. And I believe it's not.
I would agree. And so, speaking of being of this methodology, you are an executive coach, and you've been featured on Ellen, Good Morning America, and many other national shows. So, can you talk just about your coaching and the types of people or types of success story, or success story that maybe you'd like to share with someone that you've coached?
You know, there is definitely a typical story. I don't know about one in particular, but a typical story is someone comes to work with me, they're overwhelmed, you know, they often burned out, they've been doing the stuff they thought was gonna, you know, they were told that they were gonna get happiness from the money, the status, the car, the this, the that. And I'm not saying it's cool, you know, like I like good stuff, but it's not it's not it's a cherry on the cake. It's not the cake. And so when people do start realizing, you know, that maybe they're focused of being in the race, you know, which they call the rat race. I hate that visual, but you know, a lot of people have been on the, okay, I'm doing what I'm told, I'm being a good human, and I'm making myself do all these things, and then oops, it wasn't it, you know, it wasn't that was going to fully fulfill me. And so then they have midlife crisis, or they have, you know, all sorts of, you know, unlucky, even more like depressions and difficult, you know, turn of, you know, around 50, usually, I have to say, it seems to happen. I like people in transition. My brother teases me that I like going to funerals, which is a little weird, but I find that funerals, people go deeper. They go, meaning, like you don't chit chat in general, you know, you kind of, it forces you to be like, oh my God, life, you know, ends. I should really be more conscious of what I'm doing. And so it propels these conversations that I love having. So I just love having them, you know, before the person's in the box in the ground.
Yeah, that's ideal.
Yes.
Support for Label Free Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below the waist grooming. Now, ladies, you can use this too. We're all inclusive here. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. And now we're going to have the ladies too, because come on, ladies, let's be real. We have an exclusive offer for my listeners, 20% off plus free shipping with the code LabelFree20 at manscaped.com. So thank you, Manscaped, for your support. And everybody is welcome to purchase with my code. Do you have a success story where you've helped change the life of someone that has been struggling with?
I do. There was this one woman. Yeah, there was this one woman who had done the stuff. You know, she was a top executive at a company you would recognize and was doing very, very, very well financially, status like, you know, she had kind of like broken the glass ceilings and was a very influential person in this company. And then I worked with her, and pretty quickly there was this sense of like, she would look at the work we did together, which is building the system that I build with people. And one day she just was like, I like nothing that you know, none of her life was, you know, to her pleasing anymore. And it was a big turn, and she did change her career. And that's not what happens all the time, but that was very dramatic. And having to look at it as opposed to letting it float in your head all day long, you know, with all that stuff that you commit to, she actually saw what she was committed to and make a giant life change, and now lives on a farm and raises horses and is extremely happy. It's usually not that dramatic. Typically I work with people that are given another responsibility on their job, like they're, you know, somehow there is upward mobility that gets, you know, okay, now I'm in charge of even more things. And and usually they give it to people that are very competent and, you know, not to the slackers in general. And so now you're left with, I'm super competent, and now I have to produce twice as much or 3 times as much, you know, which causes burnout. So I have a person I'm working with right now that's going to probably, you know, reselect what she's committed to. That's a lot of what happens with me. When we work together, there's like, okay, I never said no to anything. And so now they have stuff on their list, you know, that they're committed to doing, and they don't realize that it's a commitment. Meaning when you say yes to something, you're in. Right?
Exactly.
And your energy gets, you know, made available for this. And so now you said yes to this thing, and now you don't have room to say yes to something else that actually would be super meaningful to you. And so productivity for me is not, okay, look, I'm doing so much. Look at me. I'm checking all these boxes all day long, you know, but do you matter? Do you care? Do you matter in the equation? What you
Yeah.
want to do, what turns you on in life, like, is that part of the equation? So that often is the kind of conversation I have with people.
It's very powerful. Yeah, that's very powerful. I mean, this life is very short.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, you only have one life to live, and it's important to do the things that drive you, motivate you, and inspire you. That's how I
Well
feel.
said. That's well said. Yeah. There was a moment when I was very young, like maybe 19, or I went to see my uncle who was in I guess a version of a mental hospital maybe.
Oh,
And it was early, and so they made me sit on this bench waiting for him. And this older guy came over, maybe 90 years old, like an old guy.
yeah,
And I'm young, and I'm like, so dude, like, what do you
yeah,
know about life? Can you teach me something? And the guy is like, I don't know. What do you want to know? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Career wise, what did you do? Did you follow your heart? No, it was really a boring job my whole life. And well, great. Did you focus on your family? It's like, no, I don't talk to my kids, and I really don't like my wife, and whatever. Like this absolutely horrid, which would to me would be like, okay, but that's hell. That's the definition
yeah,
of
for
hell. Like
sure.
it doesn't need to be flames. This is it for me. And so I do a lot. It's 40 years later, whatever now, and I still use that as my decision-making meter a little bit. Like if you and I meet when we're in our 90s and I say, how's your life? I want your answer to be, I liked it. I want mine to be, I liked it. And so
Yeah,
a lot of my decisions I made with, like, if I was sitting on a bench somewhere right now and someone said, how about it? Did you like it? I want to say yes. And it's now. That's the thing people don't realize,
yeah,
it's now that we can make decisions that will affect the turn of events of our lives.
absolutely. Yes, for me, right, wrong, or indifferent, I've always followed my heart, and 9 times out of 10, it's been great.
Yeah.
So like I'm easy to take risks, and just I love to live my every day to its fullest as much as I can. So you and I, when we have that conversation in our 90s, I'm like, it was a great life.
It was so good. Well, I'm really happy because that's who I want to hang out with.
So you also wrote a book called War and Piece of Cake. You lost 200 pounds. That's a big
That's a person and a half, huh?
Yeah. But that's very inspiring, because that's very hard to do.
It is hard to do, and it was hard, and it was beautiful. There's a reason why one goes to 300 and some 50 pounds. There was a lot of healing that needed to happen, a lot of self-discovery, a lot of who am I? Why am I unable to feel sad? And every time I feel sad, I just down, chocolate cake.
Yeah.
So it was a journey of discovery, and the book is about a lot of these discoveries and a lot of these journeys that lead us to make choices that are self-loving or not. A lot of my food now is, do I love myself if I do eat this? And it's a choice of self-love or not. And often I'll just spit out my food or decide not to eat something because it's going to make me feel like, crap. So I don't need it. So yeah, it was a big journey, and it made me, there was a lot of trying to resolve this thing because I could see that a diet could work, but very temporarily. So I would lose 30 pounds and I would gain 50 pounds. It was as we discussed. Exactly. And the yo-yo is absolutely unhealthy. And now it's become more of even the way I shop. I was at a store yesterday and there was this fruit and they looked like, I don't know, not healthy, like pesticide and all that. And I was just like, I don't want to put that in my body. It's poison, So even thinking about, like, when you walk in the store and be like, okay, what choices am I making and what it's going to be in my cart? When I leave the store, what's going to be, so when I get home and I open my fridge, it's not just, it's actually not, I don't need sugar. There's choices I make to feel healthy that are now a guide for me to just continue to take care of myself.
Yeah. And like before we started recording, you said a lifestyle.
Yeah, it is. It is a lifestyle. Like a lot of people are like, what did you do? I'm like, I don't know. It's like I've done 70 million things. Like it's conversations, it's books, it's self sit there and feel your feelings. And it's like, it's a journal and just so much. It's a lot. It's a lot, but it's also a lot to walk around when you're 350 pounds.
I can't imagine.
Very heavy, very heavy.
Very hard on your body, your organs, your joints, all that stuff.
All of it. And your morale, you walk in a room, especially I lived in Paris, Paris, 350 pounds in Paris is like, 1,000 pounds here. It's like, it's a lot. People are so skinny, but I would walk in a room everywhere and be like, "Ooh, which chair can I sit on?" And most of the chairs I couldn't. They would probably break, and so it's a lot of management. It's just a lot of having to think about it and people's judgments, and just
Yeah. Well, good for
not an
you.
easy life. Thank you.
I'm glad you found the discipline and healed everything within to get to a place where you're living a healthy lifestyle, because
Yeah,
that's really what it's all about,
it
balance,
is.
that balance.
Balance. Also, I play pickleball now, which is my absolute obsession. I play 3 hours a day, which I go at 6 a.m. because I have a full life and I go super early. And, to find a sport or some sort of physical activity that really brings you joy. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I mean, I didn't have that because at 350 pounds, for golly, like you get out of the couch, that's a sport. You're so heavy. It's
I'm
like,
sorry to laugh, but that's true. I can't
no,
imagine.
it's like it is true. And then you go to the gym because everybody says it would be good for you. And then you break a bone because you're heavy and your bones are so, I remember seeing a picture, like an x-ray of someone who's very big, like probably the highest weight of humanity that's ever had, like 900 pounds or something.
Oh,
Like,
God.
about him because there was a big story. Like they took him out on a crane, like they couldn't get him out from the front door, and when he died. And I saw an x-ray of him and his ankles, like the bones that was supporting all this is this big. It's like so small. And I just remember sitting there with my 350 pounds and being like, oh my God, what am I doing to my bones? That's so little and it's so heavy. And it was really an act of self-love to start not letting my body hurt itself.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That was beautifully put. Well, we're getting close on time. Where can people find you, connect with you, contact you if they're interested in, if you as an executive coach or just to follow your incredible journey?
Thank you. There's a lot out there, just type my name. There is a website called becurrenttoday.com. That's probably where you'll find there's a lot of blogs and a quiz that's really fun to figure out, what kind of production person are you? Like, how do you produce, your own results? And it's actually, so it's becurrenttoday.com.
Perfect. And I will put that link in the show notes, you guys. So don't hesitate to reach out to Sophie. She is an absolute delight and her story is very inspiring. So yeah, I'm sure she would love to hear from you. Or
thank you. Our conversation was very inspiring as well.
Oh, thanks. Okay. So before we say goodbye, I always like to ask for any last words of wisdom or advice. So what would you like to leave with the audience today?
There's the usual suspects, have a good idea before you start a company, make sure you surround yourself with the right people, all blah, 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 the usual stuff. But I would say my favorite one lately is take care of yourself in the process. A lot of people that are entrepreneurs, they don't realize what it's going to take and they burn down. They really hurt themselves in the process. So find time for you, for your loved ones and your health, and make sure you're part of the equation of what running a company looks like.
Yeah, because if you don't take care of you can't take care of anybody else. You know what I mean? That's what I say all the time.
That's true. Exactly.
Sophie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your story and letting us know all the wonderful things you've done in this world, and continue living that well-balanced, healthy lifestyle and helping others do the same. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Ralescu with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. Please don't forget to comment, review, share, all those good things, and I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.